Drivers, start your engines.
And so the time has come to settle the IRL Championship for 2003. Scott Goodyear and Paul Page will, as of usual, call the action. And Paul, today is already a history-making day.
Well, that's right, Jenks. Never before in history have 5 men entered the final race of the season with a bona fide chance at walking away with the title. Gil de Ferran is the long shot, driving in the final race of his career. Scott Dixon is trying to do it in the first season of racing. And then there's Sam Hornish looking for 3 titles in a row. And remember, he has won 5 of the 7 closest races in IRL history. Helio Castroneves is a 2-time Indy 500 champion, but has never won the championship. He races today against his best friend, Tony Kanaan. They have raced one another since they were little kids. But Scott Goodyear, today, they race for the title.
Paul, the pressure on these top 5 drivers is immense right now. They have to perform not only for themselves, but also for their teams and their sponsors. They know that one small mistake, either on the track or in the pit lane, could cost them the race today and also the championship, something the team and them have been working for all season long. The crew also feels a lot of pressure. Their pit stops have to be perfect, knowing that 1 second in the pits could cost them this championship.
Well, Johnny Rutherford is at the wheel of the Chevrolet Corvette pace car. He's the 1980 champion. 8 years ago, Gil de Ferran held his infant daughter in his first winner's circle. Anna and her younger brother Luke are both here today.
Hi, I'm Anna de Ferran.
Hi, I'm Luke de Ferran. And we're here for my dad's last race before he retires.
I hope he wins, but anyways, he's on pole and these are the cars behind him.
.500 racing miles complete, but it all comes down to just one race. A final check in the pits. We start with Jack Arute.
All of the top 5 top points contenders, 3 of them have direct connections to the man behind me, Roger Penske. 2 drive for Roger, Gil de Ferran and Helio Castroneves. And a third, Sam Hornish. Should he win the championship, well, he's going to work for Roger Penske, replacing de Ferran at the wheel in 2004. Gary Gerald, that means for Roger Penske, today has the potential to be a win-win-win situation.
And as for Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan, just like Helio Castroneves, it's very simple. Win the race today, you win a championship. Now, both Dixon and Kanaan have teammates that could play a spoiler role, but Director of Competition Brian Barnhart has made it perfectly clear. He's emphatically said no team tactics that involve impeding the progress of another championship competitor will be tolerated. Jerry?
Well, Gary, unlike others in the title chase, Sam Hornish has no teammate here today, but he does have a clear mandate. He knows his Panther team desperately needs to collect the 2 bonus points for leading the most laps. So when the green flag waves, look for Sam to light the fires in his Pennzoil rocket and hustle to the front. Paul Page, that kind of aggressiveness has allowed him to win 3 of the last 4 races, and so he hopes it will allow him today to win a championship.
It makes him especially good here. It's a beautiful day for racing. Our trim spa track conditions, air temperature at 78, the track temperature climbing, and very light winds. And in our race analysis, 200 laps the starting distance. And, of course, Sam Hornish, the last winner here. And in the championship itself, while there are many different possibilities among the 5 contenders, easiest way to win a championship is to first win the race. Our onboard cameras for today, we have 27 different camera angles for you to cover the Indy Racing League Indy cars. Getting ready for the green flag. Pace car still out in front of the field. Crowd here ready for this one. Pace car dials off. Front row comes toward the flag. Underway for the final time in 2003. DeFerrin from the pole jumps to the front.
Paul, the one guy that we know is going to want to get up there very quickly, as Doc said, wants to collect those 2 points, is Sam Hornish. Now, had problems with the car throughout the weekend, but ran 2:24 in the final practice yesterday. Look for him to get up front very quickly.
And already a challenge at the front of the field. Both of the Target Chip Ganassi cars come up to battle, and Helio Castroneves comes up to protect on the inside and try and get the lead.
Already these guys are going to be seeing speeds of 215, 20 miles an hour in that area right away.
9 car Scott Dixon sits on the high side. His teammate Thomas Scheckter behind him.
You can see that bump that's in 1. A lot of guys complained about that. You want to make the car as low as possible around here for some grip sometimes, but that bump has actually caused a lot of problems for guys early on when the tire pressures are low.
First couple of laps going to be run at 216 miles an hour. Back on board of the 11 car, Tony Kanaan. Castroneves comes inside him.
This is a great wall. See, we talked about that bump. Watch that right there. The back end gets light. You have to make sure the tire pressures are up to support the car and the temperatures are up. And that little indication there might just show us what might go on for the whole day here.
Got out of it and saved it, but look how far back Scheckter fell.
But think about that save, Paul. That little twitch of the wheel at 215 miles an hour is pretty impressive.
Back with Kanaan sitting in 4th.
As we watch here, you see a lot of guys come out of turn 2 and start to dive towards the low side of the racetrack, down that backstretch. They want to protect that inside line, and that will become very important in these last 10 laps of this race.
Taking a look at those on the move in this race. Of course, you expect the move by Helio Castroneves. We kind of expected a greater move by Sam Hornish, but you can see that bright yellow car is mired back there. There he is, as he comes up on Vitor Meira and behind Thomas Scheckter.
Sam's there working the high line like he always likes to do. But those guys won't be liking the high line so much going through this segment right here, turns 1 and 2. Now, interesting to see, Paul. Sam's car rode over that bump very nicely. You can hear they're flat on the throttle, no lifting. Going through that turn 3, turn 4 segment onto the D section right now.
Nobody's sitting down here yet at Texas Motor Speedway. There's Sam as he tries to work his way up through the field.
Still inside, still there.
The voice of Pancho Carter will console him as his spotter throughout the day.
Clear behind if you want, clear behind. Got one sneaking up inside. Clear right now.
That's a race going on right now between Scheckter and Hornish for 6th and 7th.
Coming back to the front of the field. Helio Castroneves now working on Tony Kanaan. Now you'll see another car out there that looks very much like Kanaan's, and that is the 7 car now belonging to Dan Wheldon. He campaigned the 26 most of the year, but this is 7-Eleven's headquarters city, so they've decided to run the 7 car with him. Jack Arute.
While Helio Castroneves is settled in, and I say settled in reservedly, in the 4th position. They learned one important lesson at Fontana when they led a lot of the race, and that was fuel consumption. And talking to the crew and Rick Reineman before the race, they said, we're going to just try and stay within sight of the lead and draft. Why? Because they get such a tremendous increase in miles per gallon of methanol.
4 of the contenders in the championship run in the top 4 position. You see that yellow car again, the 4 Pennzoil Panther of Sam Hornish is back there behind Scheckter. And this was Scheckter a few laps ago.
That'll get your attention at 215 miles an hour. Up into the gray area, saves it, and just stays away from the wall.
Now tries to get around Brian Herta.
These guys are settling into a pace, Paul. Brian Barnhart told them in the driver's meeting, guys, you got a long race to go here. Don't throw it away. Settle into a pace. Read your car.
Hornish works on Schechter.
Clear if you want. Clear if you want.
And that's one more for Sam. Herta is his next target. Not bad for having a problem with the brakes on the right rear just before the start. So the first laps are already gone at better than 217 miles an hour. And Gil de Ferran is leading with the top 4 contenders at the front. Well, now Sam Hornish has moved into 5th place. So the 5 contenders in the championship are running 1st through 5th as you look at the Firestone telemetry.
Paul, his car's been working very well for him. He's moved very smartly. He's been very patient going through the traffic. He's been able to run high. He's been able to run low. We just saw him go through that bump again. Does not affect his car all that well. He's catching a draft right now from the group of cars in front of him. A little bit of blocking maneuvering happening already. See, he's getting pushed up high, but his car stays there, just drives around the outside.
Amazing. As Hornish tries the move, it's very, very close with Castroneves. Gets a nose ahead of him. They both turn the last lap at better than 221 miles an hour. We'll take a look at the speeds as they come across the line.
Now, after 20 laps, these guys have cars where the tire pressures are up and the temperatures are up. They're now communicating to their pits, telling them what the car is doing, starting to prep themselves for what changes might happen during the first pit stop.
And Vitor Meira fastest around last time, running leading a little group a little bit further back. But look at this. The top 5 are the championship. The whole battle is right there. Weldon has been moving up too. Now remember, he's trying to win the rookie championship as he battles with Roger Yasukawa. And again, you got a good indication of the jump in the wheel of the effects of that bump coming off the turn 2 banking.
Remember, the key thing for Sam right now is to get out in front and lead the most laps of this race. If he can, he collects 2 bonus points, which might just make the difference in the championship at the end of the day.
Got one following by 1. Clear right now.
And guys from the pits, as you watch that battle for 3rd place, the instruction on the radio to Tony Kanaan, make Hornish take him up high, make him take you up high. And certainly the first challenge has now been repulsed, it appears, by Tony Kanaan.
Weldon's now beginning to move in. You see the green and white car back at the tag end of this. There is Tony Kanaan, currently sitting 3rd, last lap at 2:20.
Here's where Hornish will get the dividends for those 3 cars in front, punching a hole in the air for him. He just has to find a way by. Now, Tony Kanaan would be hearing from his spotter right now. You've got one looking high, one looking high. So he's not going to drift up the racetrack until he hears the word clear from his spotter.
But Hornish continues to run that higher line. It seems to work very well for him.
Well, funny story going on.
They all work well for him.
They all work well for Sam, but funny story going around the garage this week is that after the last race at Fontana, Sam says, I just like the high line, so you can rest assured that people know that they're not going to give him the low line, because he might be looking there at this particular weekend, since everybody knows that the high line is Sam's line.
0.3 of a second covers the top 5, which means it covers the championship. Let's go down to Jerry Punch.
Guys, talking to John Barnes a moment ago, the strategy was what I said at the beginning. Punch the button on this Pennzoil Panther machine and get to the front of the field. Now, I said, now, if the pace is too fast, we may want to just sit in line and save fuel. But the word here in the Panther pit is they are getting outstanding fuel mileage in this Chevy Gen 4 engine. So they're just going to keep pushing the button and try to get to the front and get those points for laps led.
And Jerry Punch, what do you figure? You figure they're about halfway to the first fuel stop?
Paul, they're thinking the mid to upper 50, 55, 56. As the race progresses, they may go beyond 60 to 62 late in the stages for longer mileage on fuel.
The battle at the Chevy 500 is, in fact, for the championship. 5 contenders in that fight, and amazingly, those 5 are running 1st through 5th right now. 28 laps are complete. Gil de Ferran is out on the front. He led from the pole. Dixon was able to push ahead for 3 laps, but then de Ferran got it back from him. Average speed has been blistering, and we have been clean and green all the way. There's the championship as it stands at this moment. But of course, that is a moving target throughout the race. The race positions and then the points. Boy, Scheckter and Helio Castroneves, the 10 and the 3 car. Yellow flag comes out. Report from race control is it debris on the backstretch. So for the first time, they slow with 31 laps complete. And a quick look up and down the pits. It looks like some of the key contenders are going to lay out for their first stops. Report is there's a piece of metal on the backstretch that they're going to have to get out and pick up. de Ferran, Dixon, Kanaan, Hornish Jr., and Castroneves. Hornish Jr.'s team is ready. Tonight on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern, the Seattle Seahawks welcome the San Francisco 49ers to town. It all starts with NFL Primetime presented by Miller Lite at 7:30 Eastern. For more, log on to ESPN.com. So they've got the debris. You can't have anything. I mean, I think sometimes people wonder, well, what's a little debris going to do? I hit it on the interstate all the time. Not at 200 miles an hour and not on a racing tire.
Well, at this speed, and a racing tire is very thin, about the thickness of a quarter. These slick tires do not have grooves here because you're not running in wet weather conditions. Remember, these cars also run just about an inch off the ground, not about 4 or 5 or maybe 7 inches like our road cars do.
Gil de Ferran tucks up behind Johnny Rutherford in the Chevrolet Corvette pace car. Pits are now open, and my guess, Scott, is most, if not all, the field will head in.
I think you almost have to, Paul. With the pace that this race has been going on right now, you really have no choice.
Yeah, and there they are.
Key time, we talked about pressure for the crew and the drivers. You have to get in 4 tires, 35 gallons of methanol fuel in 10 seconds. This is pressure for the team.
Championship fight is all down at pit out.
Gil de Ferran reporting a bit of looseness, but not asking for any changes.
Got Dixon rolling, but Tony Kanaan has it in. Oh, de Ferran may have won the battle on the outside, but Kanaan was right there.
Oh, I'll tell you, it was close. Kanaan just edged de Ferran out, and that gave Kanaan the lead of the race. And that's why the pit crews are so critical on a run like this. You can do things in the pits that they can't do on the track. There's a wheel bouncing out in turn 1. We'll be back.
35 laps complete. Let's bring you up to speed on an incident during the pit stops. There's the wheel that came off the right rear of Vitor Meira, but he was quickly in and has 4 now on as we get set for the restart. But before then, Dan Wheldon, Scott, has moved from 16th to 7th.
Dan, a great run going right now. Any added pressure being here in the hometown of 7-Eleven and driving Michael Andretti's number?
No, I just hope I can do as good a job as Michael. You know, he teaches you a lot, and I've learned a hell of a lot this year. The race is still early, so we'll carry on doing what we're doing, and then we'll see if we can get Tony where we need to be by the end, and hopefully I can win Rookie of the Year.
Good luck.
Indeed, the race is early. 35 out of 200 laps completed. This caution was brought about by a piece of debris on the backstretch, so no incident on the racetrack. Jack?
Well, making his first visit ever to an IndyCar race, Rusty Wallace, teammate of sorts, Helio Castroneves. You drive the Miller car in Winston Cup racing. What do you think of this IndyCar stuff?
Man, I tell you, it's the first time I've ever been to pit area for an IRL race. These guys make some serious horsepower. And standing here, they come at about 220. Man, they take your breath.
Do you think we'd ever see you drive one of these cars?
Man, I wouldn't have an electric chair to drive one of these things. No way.
Guys.
He's a heck of a stock car driver, though. We welcome Rusty Wallace to among those watching the championship being decided here at Texas. Well, Scheckter, Thomas Scheckter, lost 4 positions during the pit stop, so he now is in 10th as Kanaan, DeFerrin, and Dixon will lead him to the green flag. Paul?
Tony Kanaan picks up the position as a result of his stop and now takes him to the green flag. They're back running at Texas Motor Speedway. Well, he got a good restart, too. That's all about momentum, but boy, did it work for him.
Timing is everything. There is a go zone back in turns 3 and 4. The IRL sets up. You cannot start until you get into that go zone. He did a perfect job.
Hornish already back at work, trying to get under the number 3 car of Helio Castroneves. That's Dixon just ahead of him.
Dixon looked a little soft in the middle of the turn there. Maybe the car's not working quite right for him. The key thing to watch here throughout this fuel run in the segment is whose car works great at the beginning and whose car comes on strong at the end. That's going to be important for the end of the race.
And Scott Dixon did not want any changes on the car. He said the balance had been terrific early on, and he's always very quiet, the Iceman on the radio.
Both of Dixon's parents are race drivers, so it's in the genes for him. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Guys, Sam Hornish complained that he had a bit of a push coming off turn 2, but was loose coming off turn 4. He said we could add some downforce, but I think it's going to get cooler and we'll get downforce by weather temperature. So let's leave the car alone. I'll battle it here on full tanks, and as it cools off, we'll get better. Let's check in with Jack.
Gary, just how important are the 2 points for leading the most laps? Roger Penske has 1 crew member who's keeping the tabulation. Just before the green flag, he radioed to his driver, Gilles DeFerrin, "You led more than Dixon."
Yeah, and those extra points for leading laps could make the difference in the championship before this day is over.
Well,
Here comes DeFerrin.
Just think about it. We're tied right now going into this, and who would have thought that 15 races ago?
And already the championship has changed slightly in that battle for the crown. Kanaan, by taking the lead, moves ahead in the points battle. Dixon had it. Now it's Kanaan.
Watch him focusing on that low line through the D-shaped oval here, getting very close to the white line in the grass. We talked about them coming out of turn 2 and starting to dive towards the inside of the track. Follow that white line, not allowing anybody that inside line.
So it's Honda out at the front, followed by 3 Toyotas, and then Sam Hornish's Chevrolet. Gary Gerould.
They were telling Tony Kanaan as they came down for the green, don't get too wound up about leading laps for the extra points. Their focus is more on managing fuel today than it is chasing those points. Remember, Kanaan wins the race. He doesn't have to worry about those 2 points. He wins the championship.
DeFerrin moves a little high. Get right up there on the tail like that, you actually can affect to some degree the car in front of you. I was talking with Rick Mears about that, and he said, yeah, you get your nose up under there, you can lift them up just a little bit.
Not as much as they find in Winston Cup, but the driver can certainly feel it. And you can actually not even have to look in your mirrors, and you know where the cars are around you just from the way the car reacts, from the air being pushed from the guy behind you.
44 laps now complete. Kanaan continues his lead.
Here we go.
Hornish
looking
dropped
inside.
down on the inside, tried to find some room. It's amazing how calm they're able to deal with all of that. Later today, ESPN2 brings you the NHRA O'Reilly Fall Nationals from Dallas. Final eliminations coverage starts at 6 Eastern. And for more information, log on to ESPN.com.
Paul, interesting to note there, both those guys in front of Hornish right now are not working in the middle of the turn. You see how quickly Sam catches up. And Sam's rating back up that those guys are wiggling in the middle of the turns. So Sam's able to go faster right now, cannot get by those 2 guys.
Well, it's logical that you loosen the car up because it will be a little faster, but you don't really want it loose for 200 laps.
Well, you know, there's a lot of talented guys driving those race cars right now, but sometimes you just run out of a little bit of luck and talent.
It continues to just be a nose-to-tail chase at the front of the field. The 5 contenders in the Indy Racing League Championship. First time in history that it's come down to 5. all with an actual shot at taking the title. Not a mathematical game, a real shot. The guy that's finding the most trouble right now is Hornish, because look at that. As Scheckter comes up on him, Hornish starts out, goes 3 wide. He comes up high on Castroneves. Castroneves works Dixon.
Sam's noticing in his mirror right now that people are starting to catch up with him. There's Scheckter directly behind him. Schechter's going to slide underneath. As a driver right now, you're getting those reports from the spotters and also looking in the mirrors, and you know what's happening behind you also.
Well, there are a lot of people believe that Scheckter, in fact, could be the spoiler of this race. Go out and try to take the win. We'll see where that goes. We'll be back.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, where the second caution flies over Texas Motor Speedway as Ed Carpenter has slowed on the racetrack, and his Metabolife Ultra car is being towed to the pit area. Well, the championship battle continues. It is raging on here today, and we wanted to get an idea of who the drivers thought was going to win the overall championship in the race here today.
I got to give the nod to Scott Dixon. He's been so strong. The Ganassi team's given him a great car.
Everybody you ask is going to say they should win the championship, and they've probably got a pretty good reason why.
I've been working extremely hard. I don't know what the other guy's doing, but I think I deserve them more than anybody.
Sam Hornish, you know, he's done a great job all year long, and he definitely has what it takes to get it done.
Tony Kanaan will, because he's been strong throughout the season and very consistent.
I'd say Castroneves is going to be real tough.
It's impossible to know. I mean, all we know is the mathematical possibilities of each and every driver.
Right now, as it stands with 54 laps completed, here are the point standings. Tony Kanaan, as the leader of the race, also is ahead in the championship fight. Now, the pits are open, and although it's only been 21 laps since the most recent pit stop, we're going to keep a close eye on especially Tony Kanaan and Helio Castroneves to see if they come in for pit stops.
Bob Castroneves is indeed pitting.
It would appear as though Kanaan will not. A fake out, but he decides not to. But several do decide to come in and take advantage of this caution for some fresh tires and a fill-up, including Sam Hornish. And, of course, at the bottom of your screen is Gilles de Ferran. There is Thomas Scheckter also coming in. Both de Ferran and Castroneves are in.
No changes for either of the Marlboro Team Penske cars. They didn't worry about who the leader was. They wanted the fuel, and they are in and out in a drag race.
And it looks like de Ferran wins that particular little battle as they join the rest of the field for the resumption of the race here in just a moment. Well, tonight on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern, the Seattle Seahawks welcome the San Francisco 49ers. Starts with NFL Primetime presented by Miller Lite. That's at 7:30 Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. 55 laps completed here at Texas Motor Speedway in Championship Sunday as we decide who will wear the IRL crown for 2003, take home the $1 million bonus, and of course get a replica of the trophy. There's the indication. One more lap to go. Tony Kanaan decided not to make a pit stop during that caution period, so he's the leader with Scott Dixon second, then Weldon, Giafoni, Yasukawa, Takagi, Fisher, Scheckter, de Ferran, and Castroneves. There's the top 10. Now, Ed Carpenter, who brought out this caution, has the car running again, so we still have all 22 cars in competition. Doc, what was the matter with Carpenter?
Well, they lost the battery. They may have also lost the alternator. He lost power, so that's why the car coasted to a halt. He couldn't get it back to the pits. They've come on pit road. Paul Datlevich and company have changed battery, and now Ed Carpenter is back in the fray.
And, Paul, there's the restart order. No lap cars among the top 10 restarters.
Yeah, but, Bob, now it is a split strategy with de Ferran, Castroneves, and Hornish sitting back 9th, 10th, and 11th, and Kanaan and Dixon at the front of the field, but have not stopped. Kanaan now begins his acceleration, and you're watching from Weldon's car. Kanaan easily pulls away. Weldon battles for second. Giafoni comes up on Weldon's right rear.
Every time you get a restart, Paul, you want to make sure you go through the gear selectors very carefully. 10,300 RPM these engines run at, producing just about a 700 horsepower.
Take a look back here with Hornish and the two Penske cars, because they're going to want to get through this field. Boy, you see Takagi come flying across there.
He was on the low side of the bump and went up right in front of Sam Hornish's lane.
Not serious. Just looking inside a little bit. Looking. You're still clear. Still clear.
The voice of Poncho Carter, the spotter for Sam Hornish Jr.
Both the Penske cars still running right behind Hornish. DeFerrin, then Castroneves. Jack, how'd that stop go for Penske?
It's not as much to stop, Paul. Those were effortless, but what you're seeing unfolding now are two teammates that are going to hook up in a draft. And the question mark remains, have we seen everything that Gil DeFerrin and Helio Castroneves have? In polling both Roger Penske and Tim Cindric, it's been a resounding no. They said right now all they're concerned about is building as best fuel consumption as they can. They say we've still got a lot left to show.
Oh, it's pretty crowded back there.
Well, that'll be interesting for Penske. Remember, this is the first pole they've had on a 1.5-mile racetrack. And Gil's first pole this season. They've actually struggled on some 1.5 tracks earlier this year. So great to see them come up with a combination to be in the hunt here for today.
And part of this strategy will revolve around this car of Dan Weldon, who won is in the rookie fight, but also as the teammate to Tony Kanaan, along with Brian Herta. Part of his job, sitting there in third right now, is to try to get up, get behind, and help push his teammate Tony Kanaan. Look at that. Brack was the fastest that time around. Of course, depending on how they run in traffic, and now you have one group a little bit lighter because of the staggered pit stops in terms of weight on the car.
A little less fuel always helps you go a little bit quicker, less weight, as you mentioned, Paul. Drivers can feel that when they run through their fuel segment. Cars handle differently at the beginning of the segment to the end of the segment, and they actually have some controls down here in the cockpit that they can use to adjust the car's handling throughout those runs.
Dixon works Kanaan hard. A little further back, Hornish and Scheckter right there. So, Gary Gerould, what is the strategy for Tony Kanaan and the three-car team of Andretti?
Let's find out from Kim Green. How big a gamble was it to stay out?
Well, you know, we hadn't really used very much fuel, so we can still go a long way. We just set up in the pits just to make a last-minute decision. Obviously, some guys came in, so it's going to make things a bit interesting. Obviously, we don't want a yellow to come out at the wrong time for us after we've been into the pits under a green. So we'll see. We've got a real good race car, and the guys did a great job on the first pit stop.
And a quick postscript, guys. 7-Eleven announced today that they've re-upped for next year with Andretti Green Racing. That is a definite.
You saw a little while ago the 12 car at Tora Takagi get high. He's done it again. So now IRL Race Control keeping a close eye on him, make sure there's nothing wrong with that car. Hornish, since the restart, forward 6 positions. He restarted in 11th, now up in 5th. Jerry?
A moment ago, Andy Brown, the chief engineer here at Panther Racing, actually during the yellow, told Sam, if the fuel mileage doesn't get us, if we get past the fuel window, we have got them. That's how confident they are with the horsepower they've got in that Pennzoil Panther machine today.
Well, right now it's Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, the top 5. The only one of that top 5 in a Chevrolet, of course, is Sam Hornish, who has campaigned that Gen 4 engine with great success, averaging 2.3 as a finish ever since they strapped it in the car.
You can hear the engine running so strong right now. Listen to see if he takes his foot off the throttle. Nope, nowhere through the turn, straight on the gas. You can see this little sign right up here above Sam's steering wheel. Thanks, Sammy. That's the team saying thanks, Sammy, for a great couple of years, 2 championships, and maybe even one more today.
And if you think this racing is out of this world, let me assure you it is. We got a phone call today by Jenkins and I from Ed Lou on the International Space Station as he was over Ireland and was heading to try to get over the track here and keep track of the race. And he knew there were 5 guys in the fight and wanted to know what was going on.
Got one up, kind of looking.
Sarah Fisher up to 8th place, was 3rd quickest last time around. So Sarah Fisher now on in move with Kanaan at the point in his Honda. Sam Hornish and Dan Weldon go side by side, an ongoing battle for 3rd place that has continued regularly since we left you. It's still Kanaan in first, followed by Dixon. The battle for the championship continues. At the moment, it is in the hands of Tony Kanaan, followed by Dixon, and then Castro Neves. Aerial coverage today provided by 1-800-MEDICARE. Wondering who to call when you have questions about Medicare? The answer is right in front of you.
Behind if you want. Get up along there. If you're not using 6, try it. See if you can get ahead of him.
Some great advice from Pancho Carter. Sam's currently running 5th in the gear selection right now. Pancho says maybe try 6, get a little bit more speed out of the car to see if you can actually get past Danny Weldon in front of you.
We're estimating that the leaders right now, having just completed their 77th lap, as we look at them after 76, now 77, that they're probably about 14 laps away from their next stop. While on the other hand, Gil de Ferran, Elio Castroneves, and Sam Hornish are probably not going to be in until after the 110th lap of the race. Interval 1st to 10th, right now 1.6 seconds. Whatever happened to that idea about taking it easy mid-race?
Well, you know, Brian Barnhart said to these guys filing behind each other, but, you know, once you put your helmet on as a driver, the only thing you can think about doing is going forward, and these guys are doing a terrific job right now. The 24-degree banking here at Texas is a lot of fun, one of my favorite racetracks, and all these guys know that there's a lot of grip out there, 2 abreast, and probably you'll see 3 abreast before we get this race done with.
There's Sarah Fisher for the 3rd consecutive year. She's won the Indy Racing League Crew's Most Popular Driver Award. Ari Lyondike Jr. won for the Menards Infinity Pro Series. Sarah's given it a good ride today. Her teammate Robbie Buell right there with her. Now you're looking back from Scott Sharp, who is just ahead of that battle. Sharp currently in 10th. Buell and Fisher.
A good run for Scott. They have struggled on these 1.5-mile tracks a couple of times this year, which is strange because he's won here a couple of times over the past few years.
Looks like the pace lap back there.
Oh, 2 by 2 by 2. I mentioned that 24-degree banking. Just a lot of confidence for these drivers here. And these guys love the Texas Motor Speedway. And girl, I might add.
Front 3 are Honda, Toyota, Honda. Then the Chevrolet of Hornish Jr.
The voltage regulator and the new battery again. And the alternator's definitely packed it up. There's nothing else we can do short of changing the motor.
Well, not the greatest news for Ed Carpenter. Yellow comes out.
Let's go in.
I'm thinking that I would probably, if I were the leaders, would head for the pits.
No, they'll have to. They'll be waiting.
This is a big break for Tony Kanaan and for Scott Dixon. They were gambling they'd get a yellow. They've got it. They did not have to pit under green.
Let's go down to Jerry Punch.
Well, A.J. Foyt, your grandson, came in a moment ago. He's been on and off pit road a couple of times, and he just climbed out of the car. What happened?
Well, actually, I don't know. The other day before qualifying, we went loaded and run almost 220, and we lost about 2.5 miles an hour, and we could see that something was going on with the motor pulling down. And then today, when he started going backwards, it just wouldn't run, and backfiring, missing. We changed all the coil packs, all the electronics, it still won't run. So we lost about 17 laps. There ain't no sense. It still ain't running. We don't know what's wrong. Something's wrong with the engine department.
Toughest day for the toughest name here in Texas. Bob Jenkins?
But A.J. Foyt, the 4th, if you're running not up to speed, well, you could consider it a hazard. So I think it's a great idea that they just park the car and let everybody else shoot it out. Well, on board with the leader of the race, Tony Kanaan, after 84 laps. And by the way, the pits are open, and the caution was brought out again by Ed Carpenter, whose car has or came very close to being stopped down in turn number 1. The capacity at Texas Stadium, where the Cowboys are playing today, 65,595 at the Cotton Bowl, where many of our ESPN and ABC people were yesterday covering the football game. The capacity at the Cotton Bowl, 68,250. And the estimated crowd here for the Chevy 500 today, 102,000. A great crowd, and they have come to see the championship decided for 2003 in the IRL IndyCar Series. And as you can see, there's a lot of activity about to happen on pit road. Kanaan leads Dixon, Weldon, Hornish, Scheckter, Giafoni, all of those coming down for a pit stop here on the 85th circuit of the race. 200 laps make up the Chevy 500.
Tony Kanaan in his marks. He's in pit box number 2. He has Scott Dixon right in front of him. Behind him are the Penske cars. And another drag race and another close call. Looked like Dixon had it.
Scott Dixon.
The most telling thing that may have been said between Tim Cindric and Helio Castroneves is our main competition today is Sam Hornish. Beat him and we win the championship.
Dixon will have the lead when we come back to Texas. October 12, 1927, it was Frank Lockhart who swept the doubleheader IndyCar feature at Rockingham Speedway, the board track in Salem, New Hampshire. Scott Goodyear?
Tony Kanaan, do you have enough in that 7-Eleven car today to win the race in the championship?
For sure. I mean, we're doing a good job. The team did a great job on the pit stop. We just have to keep our heads up, and you know, it's going to be a good fight between all of us, but I have a lot of confidence on myself and in my team, so hopefully we'll see what's going to happen in the last 20 laps.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tony Kanaan driving for Team Andretti Green. Won his first IndyCar Series victory in Phoenix earlier this year, after coming to the IRL IndyCar Series from the Kart Series, who in 1998 won the Rookie of the Year honors. Down to Jackaroo.
Tim Cindric for Helio Castroneves. When will we see what your car has?
Well, I'd say come down to the last 5 laps, but hopefully we'll be well positioned at that point.
Bob, believe me, they are playing their cards close to the vest today.
Let's bring you up to date on where the championship contenders are. Dixon is the leader of the race. Kanaan is second. Castroneves third, and Hornish fourth. Gil de Ferran, the other championship contender, is in the 7th position. So at the moment, Scott Dixon is at the top of the points, 15 ahead of Tony Kanaan. All right, we're just about set to go green once again. And once again, Paul, everybody's on the lead lap. We do have 2 cars out of the race. Ed Carpenter is now listed as out, as is the case with Foyt.
Kanaan, Dixon, Weldon, Giafoni, they all benefited by that caution period. Next guess is that the next caution is going to come about the 140th lap, depending on yellow.
Both sides, he jumps. Go ahead, keep digging. Get by the inside car. Clear inside.
Early jump as they go green. Early but legal. And Dixon and Kanaan drag race through the first turn, on to the second. Last year, the closing laps of this race saw Hornish and Castroneves side by side for the last 30-some laps. Now here comes Hornish up alongside Scheckter. De Ferran got a good restart and got around Weldon.
Paul, you talk about those restarts. Remember, on a green flag at the start of the race, the cars cannot pass each other until they cross the line. On a restart, as soon as the green flag drops, drivers are allowed to pass anywhere they are on the racetrack.
Take a look from the blimp at that restart.
Watch right over there. Making the move early, up high, gets the car back down low. A very, very smart move. And usually it's Sam that's usually doing that job. And he was a little bit off in the timing on that one.
Look at the first 4. Scheckter in a pretty good position to help Dixon. He's lined up right behind Dixon now.
Just barely inside. Still there.
Well, Paul, I guess I would question. Scheckter's leading this team at the end of this race, moving over to Panther. There they go, down below the lines.
Oh, Castroneves. What a nice move that is.
Now below the white line, but was driven down there by another car. So when that situation happens, like he had right there with Scheckter pushing him down, I don't think he'll be penalized for that.
1 second covers the top 11 cars in the field. Toyota, Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, the top 4. Here, look at this one.
See how everybody gravitates to the right-hand side. There's a white line we talked about before. He was pushed down past that white line because of Scheckter moving low.
So now he works Tony Kanaan for second place. Hornish is right in there. Race control has decided they're going to give a warning to make sure that getting down under the line is not going to become a regularity. I think they understand how that one happened, but they just want to emphasize that. At the Chevy 500, beautiful Texas Motor Speedway just north of Fort Worth. The final race of the Indy Racing League season with Scott Dixon currently leading. 5 guys still in a battle for the championship. Dixon, Kanaan, Castroneves, and Hornish Jr. are 4 of them, and they're the top 4. Gil de Ferran is the other one in the fight, and he's faded just a little bit in the last couple of laps. And the way the points they stand at this moment, and I emphasize only at this second because it changes even as we watch.
All those drivers, Paul, right now know exactly where their competitors are. They know that Gilles just back a little bit further, but the neat thing for these guys is that everybody that's in this championship hunt is up front, so they know exactly what they need to do. They need to be in front. They need to win.
Yeah, but I'm really beginning to wonder about the condition. We've got a car in trouble. Whoa, and a big hit for Alex Barron. That's Felipe Giafoni sitting up high. And that's the first real yellow of the day, the 4th actual yellow, but the first time that's involved contact with the wall. Alex Barron appears to be okay. Giafoni, remember, has seen the wall here before.
We now have a report that Alex says he's fine on radio. You see the steering wheel coming out of the car. Drivers are asked to actually take the steering wheel off, lay it on top of the cockpit to let the safety workers know that they are actually doing fine. Amazing how fast those safety workers get there.
Oh, they're the best in the business, rolling even as the accident occurs and working with the 21 car of Felipe Giafoni. He got some pretty good news this week as we watch this replay of the incident.
Actually, Giafoni just on the high side coming out beside what looked to be Scott Sharp. And then he touched the wall, knocks the suspension off, and then you're just a passenger.
Yeah, de Ferran, you got a glimpse of de Ferran, who is now in the pits, cutting down across the grass, and that's the problem with getting back in the field. You're more susceptible to an incident like this. Now, the pits are closed, but because of the mechanical problem...
Let's go. Let's go on, try. Just go.
And now they've stalled the car, fellas. Now they've stalled the car.
Now, Paul, with that pit stop, because the pits are closed, they are not allowed to do any work on the car unless there was a flat tire or something broken on the car. Send the car back out. He will regain him back in the back of the field, and then when the pits do open, then he can come in and add fuel and tires.
Yeah, and they're concerned about a great deal of debris from turn 4 all the way down the tri-oval here.
Now, watch high. Looks like Scott Sharp was keeping a normal line. I would say that Giafoni got just a little bit loose coming off the turn.
From Richie Hearn's nose.
See how fast and all the debris coming up in front of the driver, how quickly this happens to you.
Boy, whoa. And Alex Barron just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Jack Arute?
Let's update you on what Gilles de Ferran did. Quick, heady move by Roger Penske. As you said, Scott Goodyear, no penalty to pull onto pit road and have your car inspected. That's why they took advantage of that rule. They checked the car out because Gilles de Ferran said he thought he had a problem with a tire. During the inspection, they thought maybe it is tire buildup. You know, when you slow the cars down and you're going under caution, sometimes you can pick up the little marbles. But they intend to bring the car onto pit road when the pit's open and change those Firestone Firehawks.
Actually, you'll be able to see the damage right there on his car. He's actually ended up just with the front moved off of the car right now. He's already contacted the wall. And right now you're a passenger, unfortunately. And the situation for Giafoni is that he really has no steering in the car whatsoever.
So, fourth question of the day, first wall banger at Texas.
First wall contact of the day, Felipe Giafoni's already hit the wall there. He was running beside Scott Sharp, and as you indicated, when you have as much damage as he has on the front end of that car, you become a passenger. Watch de Ferran there go toward the grass, and also Alex Barron. Unfortunately, Scott, Barron ends up in the wall.
Just a huge, huge hit.
Down to the pits.
Well, Gilles de Ferran is pulled onto pit road. No penalty, however, because, again, all they did was pull all four wheels and tires off and inspected it.
Well, Scott Sharp was riding right beside Giafoni when Giafoni had contact with the wall.
Scott, looked like a close call coming off of turn 4 with Flip Giafoni. Did you get a hint of that?
Scott, you really know not at all. You know, I never heard that he was even out there, and was actually pretty tight behind Asakawa on my own and trying to move up to the outside when just, I think Giafoni must have already caught the wall, because just in my right side mirror I saw one of his wings or something fly up.
Well, you're doing a nice job today, running 10th currently. Good luck today.
Scott.
He is having a good race. He started in 20th position. Scott Sharp is currently 10th. They're the top 6. Quick synopsis of what has happened in the first half of this race. All 5 championship contenders are still in contention, with Dixon, Kanaan, Castroneves, and Hornish running 1 through 4. Gilles de Ferran back to 15th. He was involved somewhat in that incident involving Felipe Giafoni and Alex Barron. Jerry?
And Bob, the Red Bull team hoping to have a great run. Eddie Cheever and company for Alex Barron. And Eddie, looked like Alex had nowhere to go there.
We got caught up in somebody else's accident. It was very unfortunate. Sometimes there's no place to go. The car was just turning around and Alex was starting to come up through the field. Very unfortunate, but I'm glad that he's okay. And it's a terrible way to end the season.
But you've had some tough luck all year long. Looking forward to next year, what are the plans for this Red Bull effort?
Well, our plan is to go to a 2-car team if we can. Obviously, we don't want to repeat the problems that we had this year. It's been a very difficult season for us. So I can see us working very hard in this winter to try to close the gap that we had. But today we had a good car, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Eddie Cheever hoping to roar back in 04, guys.
And we hope his driving career is not over. There are the championship points as they stand right now, with Dixon the leader of the race. He right now is a 15-point advantage on Kanaan. Now the Rookie of the Year, the Bombardier Rookie of the Year standings, that also a very tight battle. AJ Foyt the 4th is already out of the race. Yasukawa leading Weldon, but by just a few points. Down to Jerry once again.
And Alex, glad to see you're okay. Some pretty hard licks out there. What happened?
Some guys got high on turn 4 and looked like Giafoni hit the wall, and they came across the track. I was trying to slow down and weave around them, but there was just nowhere to go. And then once we got out in the grass, you know, at that speed, it's really hard to get back on the road without sliding sideways. But it's too bad. I mean, Red Bull car was moving up. We had a strong car, and And I say thanks to the guys for working so hard making that happen.
Alex Barron out of it here after the halfway. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, here's the left rear that came off of Gil de Ferran's car. It wasn't the tire that went down, but take a look, Paul and Scott. It's the outside part of the wheel. Now that will create a vibration.
Well, but fortunately, by changing out the wheel, that is fixable and has been fixed, but it put de Ferran down to 15th. Green flag comes out to the front of the field. Dixon, Kanaan, Castroneves, and Hornish Jr., 4 in the championship right together. Hornish moves for the inside, down the backstretch.
Sam got the door closed on him. Anytime that happens, best thing to do is roll out of the throttle, what he did.
Now we know that Castroneves can run great laps up in that higher groove. Front 4 are the contenders in the championship. Now we have a report that Roger Yasukawa has begun to slow on the course. Jenks just mentioned him as one of the contenders in the rookie battle. So to end up with a problem at this point, and with his opposition, Dan Welton, currently in 6th, might just end what has been a lead in the rookie points all year. Looks like he's doing all right now, though.
Well, something could have happened. Maybe tried for a gear, did not get the correct gear, but the car's still running, which is the first thing that you have to worry about.
Well, as sophisticated as these cars and engine systems are, you can have something just miscue, just a couple bits and bytes go wrong, and it'll slow you down for a second, and then the system will reboot itself and figure out right where you are. Look at this fight.
Hornish always seems fast coming off that turn 3-4 segment, which, you know, Paul, come down to the end of the race is the important place to be fast if you're going to be fast at only one end of the racetrack, because the start and finish line is just directly past turn 4.
I'm guessing that with that caution, trying to do a little math on it, that they've really only put themselves in the position of just one pit stop left to go in this race. They're past the halfway, just crossing over the 112th lap. And so let's go around and take a look at how this championship battle is going. We start with Jerry Punch.
Actually, Paul, it'll be Gary that jumps in because we're keeping an eye on the leader, Scott Dixon, car number 9. The simple advice during the last yellow, just stay out in front, do anything you can to stay there and run longer than anybody else. Their concern is fuel mileage, and they know that if they can get to the next stop, that'll be their last of the season, hopefully. As for the man who runs right behind him in the 7-11 colors, Tony Kanaan, Kim Green is saying, we think everybody's taking a conservative stance. Nobody's really showed their hand just yet. We don't think they will until we get to the last 50 miles. The championship showdown continues. Let's check on our third runner, Jack.
And that is Helio Castroneves, and Helio so far has said and insisting that he has not shown all that is beneath the rear bonnet of that Toyota. For Helio Castroneves, it's been a day of drafting, saying that he learned his lessons well at Fontana, and this team is elected not to show anything until the final 20 laps in the race. Jerry Punch, what about the guy in 4th?
Well, Sam Hornish is very confident, as is his Panther team, that they have a lot left to show. Their concern was fuel mileage initially. If they get past the gas window, they were okay. About 20 laps ago, they were complaining the car was a little bit loose, so they stiffened the front bar. But now that we have cloud cover and it has cooled off, and it may make him a little too tight. Hornish waiting his turn. He needs to win today to have a shot at the title. Let's go back to Jeff.
Meanwhile, the man that started on the pole today and running his final laps of his career, Gil de Ferran, was in, as they say, the catbird seat until the last caution, when some debris came up and hit the left rear wheel and it bent it. Now Gil de Ferran is mired deep in the back of the pack. There aren't many cars that have gone a lap down, so he doesn't even show on the board. That means that he's some 16 places behind. But for Roger Penske, he has radioed to Gil de Ferran and said, now it's a fuel conservation run, Gil. This is a team that's going to gamble and make only one stop and hope the rest of the field has to make 2.
Well, it's been about 15 laps since the last stop for everybody. They've proven they can run out to 56. Scott Dixon is out in front. At the front of the field, it's Toyota, Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, the front four. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, impressive newcomer Ed Carpenter's had to park the Metabolite machine for PDM Racing. And Ed, what put you out?
What was that?
What put you out? I know you had some struggles a couple times. You had some battery problems?
Yeah, it was either something in the battery or the alternator, but we just couldn't keep power to it. But I got to thank PDM guys for the 3 races we did this year, and Metabolite Ultra really made it possible. Learned a lot, so hopefully I'll end up in a full-time ride next year and see what we can do see if we can get out and fight for the championship next year.
Oh, an impressive driver who made the leap from the Menards Infinity Pro Series.
Yeah, Paul Diatlovich and the PDM team did a nice job in fielding that car. Hopefully it will be a full-time effort next season. We're back at the front. Dixon and Kanaan and Hornish battle one another while Castroneves and Scheckter fight.
Paul, we're seeing a lot of this happen as it goes through. The guy that's in the back, maybe 3rd or 4th, just gets a great, huge run going up to the cars that are up in front, but there's a lot of times he can't do anything with it. Either the spotters are letting the cars know in front exactly where the driver's coming from behind, or he's peeking in the mirror. So maybe everybody's trying to start to use their defense mode early in this race to get ready for his last few laps.
Here, Robbie Buell there. Currently sits in 6th. Been giving that car a good run. The second of the Chevrolet-powered cars, second in the lineup right now. And Dan Weldon down alongside him, Honda power there. They've been running laps at 217 miles an hour, though at times they've been as high as 222 miles an hour in this chase for the championship at Texas. Back at Texas, Sam Hornish is trying to force his way into second place down inside of Thomas Scheckter.
Coming back.
Scheckter, of course, his job at this point is to try and help Dixon as much as he can. Dixon, his teammate, is the leader of the race.
Still there.
The odd thing here right now, Paul, is that Sam is making the move on the low side, on the bottom of the banking, because usually he's up on the high side, showing that his car can work in both places.
Well, the Panther team has been pretty amazing on the handling on that car. Look at this, as Castroneves wants to look to the inside of Hornish, then thinks better of it.
Just inches away from each other, 215, 218 miles an hour laps, over 220 straightaway speed.
And Robbie Buell gets in there too. So Robbie Buell now into 4th as he battles with Helio Castroneves. Now, the accident earlier involved Alex Barron and Felipe Giafone. You heard from Alex Barron. Jerry Punch, what's the story on Giafone? We're watching the fight for the lead for the second. Hang on here, Jerry. I'm sorry.
See, Sam comes off turn 2, tries to push Dixon low, doesn't let him push Sam up on the racetrack. When you're on the low side, the car can get bound up. You can hear Pancho Carter yelling, "Come on!"
I can tell you that Sam's got his foot on the gas pedal right now, and he's not lifting.
Still inside, still there, still inside.
That's the way Pancho was this morning in that Heroes of Indy race.
Yeah, which he won, by the way, and which, by the way, you finished last. That's a whole nother story.
I wasn't going to get into that far. Thanks, boys.
And guys, they're telling Scott Dixon to go ahead and use the fuel, move up a notch on the mapping to get a richer combination to hold off Hornish if he wants to.
That richer combination means more fuel, like you say, Gary, and it actually gives him more horsepower. Just tells you that leading the most laps might be more important than we suspect.
The two Target Chip Ganassi cars run together. Scheckter, as they say in the Navy, sitting on Dixon 6. Now Hornish drops in there. Let's go down to Jerry Punch now, see about Giafone.
Well, Felipe, you took a heck of a hard lick down there. What happened? You looked to be okay, by the way. What happened?
Well, I mean, it's just going the outside from Sharp, and all of a sudden he moved. He just moved. And I don't know if we got to touch before I went to the wall or not, but I was just trying to avoid, him. But if you can avoid the wall, I mean, he just moved too fast, I think
he saw me coming in, because then he moved all of a sudden, you know, and there's pretty much nothing I could do.
Not the way Giafone wanted to finish the year, Paul.
Hornish going for the lead once again, 9/10 of a second, covering the first 11 in the field.
Still inside. Still there. Still inside.
See Schechter come in there, give him a little boost. You may notice that just behind this battle, Kanaan and Weldon are now in proximity to one another, so they can help each other. And that's Unser Jr. in the 31 car sitting in there. There is how Hornish has done up until they changed to the new engine, and then after they got the new Gen 4. Been averaging really well since the Gen 4. And Sam Hornish had just taken the lead at Texas, coming off of turn 4, and boy, the crowd came up on that one. Hornish, Dixon, Schechter, take a look at this for a pass, Scott.
Pushes him underneath, gets the air underneath the car, slides him up the lane, and when he came out of turn 4, the grandstand just rumbled because everybody was yelling because Sam took the lead.
So Hornish out in front. What an amazing story when you consider the start of the season. We showed you the stats on the Chevrolet Gen 3 versus the one he has now, the Gen 4. All the Chevy gang were struggling early on, but Sam has made an absolutely amazing comeback. Nevertheless, with that pass, he needs for more to happen. He needs for some bad luck for Dixon and for Castroneves. Dixon, in his position, still has the lead in the points championship, sitting in second place. The Chevy 500. Hornish is now in front. 143 laps are complete. The final race of the Indy Racing League season. This track, Texas Speedway, is known for close finishes. So is Sam Hornish. 5 of the 7 closest finishes in IRL history, he's won. You can bet, looking at the way they are right now, it's going to be a very close finish, not just for the race, but for the championship, because that's the championship battle sitting there in the top 3. There's the way they stand right now. DeFerrin slowly working his way back up from 16th. And Kanaan fell well back into 5th place, but he's got Weldon with him there. Might be a help here in a little bit. Considering the team aspect, Castroneves is running all by himself right now. He doesn't have DeFerrin to come up and help him, even if he would. Elio's mom, Jackaroo.
And Paul, although she doesn't speak any English, the universal language is being expressed down here of every mom who has a son or a daughter that drives. Grasping in her hand the holy rosary beads of her Catholic faith, Helio Castroneves' mom is not watching her son compete, but instead invoking the help of the Lord Almighty.
It's Chevrolet, Toyota, and then the first Honda is 5th place. There it is, the 11 car of Tony Kanaan. Tracking Castroneves now. 216.3 miles an hour last time around, but here comes Kanaan.
These guys need to be thinking about what kind of changes they want to make, possibly for the last pit stop. We keep mentioning about changes, and we have not seen that many wing changes, but I can assure you there's been some tire pressure changes through most of the teams on their cars during those stops.
It should be 10 to 12 laps from the final stop of the race. Guessing it to be about the 160th lap.
Well, Paul, there's going to be an early pit stop in just 2 laps for Helio Castroneves, who runs in 3rd. They will not make any changes. They just called Castroneves onto pit road. Now, remember, he did this at Fontana, and it cost him the win. We'll have to see how it turns out today. $1 million up for grabs.
And Jackaroo, exactly what's happening up here in the Pennzoil pit. Sam Hornish will be on pit road in 2 laps. 2 laps, Hornish will be on pit road, but Helio Castroneves makes a decision to come down.
So all they really wanted to do was get within range of the finish, and as they cross the 150th lap, they are in range right now.
You remember all the work that Marlboro Team Penske did early on, drafting, fuel conservation. During this pit stop, watch down by the fueler. There is a pole that will be used to time the stop. When the fueler is tapped on the back, that means the time to drop and go will take place. They've dropped the jacks, taking out the fuel. There's the tap, and he's walking away. And they just told him it's time to go. Elio, you got to go like hell.
Roger Yasukawa, Al Unser Jr., they both came into the pits while Castroneves was in for his stop, and here comes Hornish.
What's your pit speed, Jamie?
See those cones on the right-hand side? That's a 60-mile-an-hour zone, and he's actually got both the target cars coming in behind him.
And Scott Goodyear, the crew here in the Pennzoil Panther pits, knows this could be a $1 million pit stop. That's what the award is at the banquet on October 25th at Epcot Center in Walt Disney. Sam Hornish, no changes, 4 tires only. Final stop of the day.
Dixon, Terry, no changes either. Tires complete. There goes Hornish. There goes Dixon, about 5 lengths behind him. Scheckter also.
So in the championship fight, Tony Kanaan stays out and picks up the lead of the race, followed by his teammate Weldon, but now Kanaan on the pit road.
We talked about pressure for the teams right now. You mentioned that $1 million payout. The pressure is on these guys. They train during the offseason. They train throughout the weeks during the opportunity to do some stuff in the garage back in Indianapolis, and right now everything will have to work perfectly for them.
And here's Tony Kanaan gliding into position. Pressure amazing on these crew members, but this is their season. They're just as focused as the drivers. Everything appears to be routine. No changes aero-wise, and Kanaan is gone.
The fuel flows agonizingly slow at the last stop of the season. Scott Sharp has picked up the lead as Tony Kanaan moves back into the fight, and the championship is still far from being decided. Well, Scott Sharp goes for the pits, but not before Gil DeFerrin got up and alongside him to take the lead ahead of Greg Ray. But remember, they have not stopped. Greg Ray, you're on board with him right now as he chases DeFerrin. Both of them should be due for a stop any time now. They're 57 laps out from their last stop. And on that last stop for Sam Hornish, Jerry Punch, something fairly interesting developed.
Paul, he complained of a vibration right before he stopped. Now, he went 67 laps. That's a long way on these great Firestone tires, but this one was about to give up because he had just absolutely burned the rubber off. Take a look. The cords were exposed on the right rear. He might not have made another lap or lap and a half. Sam Hornish got very lucky, pitted just in time. Maybe that luck will hold for a title today.
Here he is, Sam Hornish. These Firestone Firehawks are great racing tires, but Scott, they're really leaning on them today.
You know, those tires make the most wear on the right rear. That's where all the pressure is for those tires going around here. We talked about the 24-degree banking. Just a lot of stress and pressure on all the tires, but more so on that right rear. We saw that with Sam's tire. Now, Unser Jr. looks like he just went past Hornish. And I would think that maybe Hornish, unless he's got a different fuel strategy right now, I can't know why he's not actually up to speed.
Well, Hornish has fallen off the pace. He only turned the last lap at 213 miles an hour.
Hey, Paul, Sam, this radio. The crew thinks they may have a rev limiter problem. They do not have the RPMs. It is off the speed. They cannot get it to run full wide. That's what he was saying a moment ago. Something is wrong, and he followed it up. I can't get full RPMs. That's why he is off the speed. He was running 6 or 7 laps to go.
They're reporting the oil temperature coming up as well. The whole championship for Hornish hinges on this. And he is only running 210 miles an hour. Puts him 5th in the lineup as the championship stands now. Castroneves, by getting into 4th place, is currently controlling the championship by, guess what, a whole 2 points. And DeFerrin should be due into the pits any time now.
And Paul, remember, he's been called in. Remember the number of laps that he has ticked off without coming onto pit road. When the fuel flows through the tank at approximately 3 gallons a second, that means that Gil DeFerrin will have to spend less time on pit road during this green flag stop. That fuel conservation call by Roger Penske, an awfully good one.
He's really stretching it, too. Currently 63 laps out since his last stop. So Gil DeFerrin heads for pit road, his last stop of his career.
And as he has heard throughout most of his IndyCar career, his car saying, Bring it in, nice and easy, nice and easy. That's precisely what he did. This is the final stop, and he is off and away.
So Helio Castroneves will come up as the leader of the race. Greg Ray was in second. Of course, he's on the pit stop as well. So now the front of the field is Castroneves, Kanaan, and Dixon, 3 contenders. Back at Texas, the yellow light just came on for Richie Hearn, who got up into the wall. While he was involved in that, Sam Hornish was heading to the pits with a spray at the back of the car. Now, we don't know whether or not there's a relationship between that, but it looked like Hornish was done for the day. His championship is certainly a mess right now. Jerry Punch?
And Paul, exactly. They just gave it their all. They pushed the button and were just lit the fire on this rocket. Apparently they're having problems internally in the engine. None of the fuel settings made a difference. The RPMs kept dropping. The miles per hour kept dropping. So he was back on pit road, done for the day.
So that creates an interesting scenario in the championship. The leader of the race with that great piece of strategy by Penske is this man, Gil de Ferran, the number 6 Marlboro Team Penske. Second place car is Helio Castroneves. And if he stays there, then he wins the championship, followed by then Dixon and Kanaan. Kanaan actually sitting in 3rd place right now. So the battle is at the front of the field, and there is the very real possibility that one Penske car can win the race and the other can win the championship. That's the way they stand at this moment, at this second, under the yellow at Texas.
Here at Texas, we are still under caution on Championship Sunday, but my, oh my, the pole sitter finds himself back in front with Roger Penske making a brilliant call to inspect for damage. Gil de Ferran has conserved fuel and worked his way back up. For Helio Castroneves, this man, Tim Cindric, has just radioed to him, Gary Gerould. The key, Helio, is to keep those other 2 guys behind you.
And there's grudging support for that Penske move from Kim Green, who's on the radio with Tony Kanaan. He says the wily veteran made a heck of a call. It's really thrown a crimp into our plans. We think it'd be a great shootout between the 3, the 11, the 9, Dixon, Castroneves, and Kanaan. Now we got some serious work to do.
Well, here's the reason we are under caution. Sam Hornish had some smoke coming from the back of his car. This is Richie Hearn, and again, we don't know whether there was any connection between the two, but Hearn did indeed catch the wall coming out of turn number 4. And we get down to Jerry Punch.
Sam Hornish, you pulled the plug early on, trying to make it to the front, and it went away here in the final laps. What happened?
We had a real good race car. The car could run in traffic. We got up to the lead, made the pit stop, and not really sure what happened. But when we came out, the car just wasn't up to speed. And the Pencil Panther team gave us a great car today, and we had a heck of a run, and thought we might be able to get it done. But it should be a pretty exciting race to see what else happens today.
Standing ovation when he climbed out of the car, guys.
Gil de Ferran may be on his way to winning the very last race of his career. His teammate Helio Castroneves could be on the way to a championship. But look at both Kanaan and Dixon battle for second to try to take that championship away.
Great move by Kanaan right now to be able to get an opportunity to get a little bit of a run on the restart and make that move. Now he's getting up high.
Kanaan got way high there, and in doing so, gave it away.
That's a left rear tire is going soft right there. You can see it. It's going flat on the track. Did a great job of holding on to that in the high side of 3 and 4. Championship contender gone.
That will drop Kanaan down at the moment in the points fight. It's Castroneves, Dixon, de Ferran in 3rd, but the trick is who finishes ahead, Castroneves or Dixon. That'll determine the championship right now. De Ferran.
Boys, there's a problem on Helio Castroneves. The right front tire is going low. The championship is up for grabs again.
Well, I can tell you exactly what happened there on Kanaan's car. The white wall was actually done on the left rear. His left rear hit Castroneves' right front, and they put themselves out by cutting each other's tire.
So Castroneves falls back. Tony Kanaan is on the charge, trying to come up behind the 15 car of Kenny Breck there. Dixon in 2nd. Trying to pick off de Ferran. Dixon now has the points lead.
Watch this right now, up in that area there. They're going to get just very close, just for a moment. Just a little bit of rubbing going on, and that actually ends up cutting both tires. And you know, the guy that could have benefited from this the most, Paul? Sam Hornish. He needed some of this bad luck to happen to these guys to have a shot, and he's not in the race now.
So with Helio Castroneves on the pit road, it drops him at the moment out of the championship fight, if not totally, with only 17 laps to go.
The two cars that battled all through their career have now taken themselves out of the points chase. Helio Castroneves takes on 4 Firestone tires, but it's all for naught, Paul.
Yep, they fought with one another since they were kids on go-karts in Brazil. Dixon now has the championship in hand, running in second place. He's running for the lead of the race. We said at starting, the real key for the championship is to win this race. Well, Dixon can win the championship staying where he is, but I don't think that'll be enough for the Iceman.
Well, that's when the team managers actually get on the radio and tell them, just stay where you are. We have X amount of points ahead. You don't have to worry about winning the race. But the competitive side in you right now wants to do that. I'm sure he'll think back and think the championship after a whole year of running hard is more important.
Thomas Scheckter, you ride with him in third place. He will go over and take over that ride from Sam Hornish next year. Sam Hornish will take over the seat currently occupied by Gil de Ferran at Marlboro Team Penske. Scheckter can still be a factor, protecting Dixon from behind or even helping push him forward to win not only the championship but the race.
Now, Gil's got nothing to lose, just needs to stay in front and win, as you mentioned, Paul. He needs the bad luck for Dixon to fall back to make this all happen. And he's got to be thinking inside his cockpit right now, inside his helmet.
Big crash! Major incident. Kenny Breck getting way high up into the fence. So 2 cars involved.
That's Scheckter right there. You can see him moving inside the cockpit. His helmet, his steering wheel comes off. Car heavily damaged, but we have one other car right now that is very, very heavily damaged.
Now, what will the IRL do? What will the officials decide to do? The debris from Kenny Breck's car, who got way up into the fence. Almost reminds you of an accident Davey Hamilton had here.
And that car is torn apart, Paul. That piece you see right there is part of the under tray of the car. You can see by the skid marks right here where the cars are going across right now. The cars were side by side by the looks of it, and then they just take an immediate right-hand turn, so probably had interlocked wheels.
The yellow flag flies at the start-finish line. The question now is, with just 12 laps to go in competition, whether or not they will put out the red flag and stop the event, only to restart it. Thomas Scheckter, and they get him out of the car. We still wait word on Kenny Breck. They're going to ask Scheckter to wait for a medical crew, because with a hit like that, even though you're out and walking and think you're feeling good, they want to make sure that he is okay. Boy, look at what that did to the fence.
There's a piece of wheel right there, and that is the upright and the suspension piece.
So with 189 laps and Gil de Ferran in the lead and Scott Dixon in position to win the championship in his first season in the Indy Racing League, suddenly, and it just shows how it lurks, suddenly there was a serious accident that involved Kenny Breck and Thomas Scheckter. Thomas Scheckter, you saw him get out of your car. We wait for word on Kenny Breck. They are still posting the yellow, and they are counting down to the finish of the race here at Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be back.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, a very horrifying crash here late in the Chevy 500. There are now less than 10 laps to go, and the accident involved Thomas Scheckter and, more importantly, Kenny Breck. Breck is the individual that we are concerned about right now. We have already seen Thomas Scheckter exit his car under his own power, walking around. He is okay, but this very, very terrifying crash happened at the end of the backstretch as the cars were going into turn number 3. There is Schechter's car, but Kenny Breck and his car has been heavily damaged, and we will certainly not do any speculating at this moment as to his condition. As far as a championship battle is concerned, well, we have seen a lot happen in that respect also in recent laps, with Sam Hornish having an engine problem. So there is the standing at the moment, as Dixon, who is running second in this race, is at the top of the points lead. Gil de Ferran, who is leading the race, is currently in second position. Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan touched wheels, resulting in a cut tire for both, and therefore they are down to third and fourth in the championship. You saw a picture just a while ago about the incredible damage that has been done to the fence over in turn number 3 as Breck's car got up into the catch fence, and that will of course have to be repaired in order to restart this race. And I think there is considerable speculation as to whether or not this race can be restarted or not. There is the scene around Kenny Breck as the medical personnel from the Indy Racing League work over him and try to stabilize him. Here is the replay of what happened. Breck on the high side of Thomas Schechter down the backstretch. At the end of the backstretch, there's the contact, and Breck's car up into the wall, virtually splitting in half. And here is the shot now from the end of the backstretch. It's a crash very reminiscent of Davey Hamilton's accident here a few years ago, in which he sustained very severe leg damage. The catch fence keeping the car contained inside the racetrack, but still resulting in a lot of damage to the car. Hopefully no, at least life-threatening injuries to Kenny Breck. The pace of the race, of course, reduced, and only now less than 8 laps to go in this event. And from race control, we are getting information now about cutting the race short because of the accident. There is some debris from Breck's car which is outside the racetrack, and there is the damage that was done to the catch fencing. All right, the word from race control now is that they will roll the white flag. They will show the white flag next time around and bring this race to a close on lap 195, 5 laps short of the scheduled distance. So it appears as if Gil de Ferran will indeed win his final race of his career, as he has already announced his retirement from racing. He started on the pole, a bit of strategy involving his car and its involvement in another accident earlier. He was allowed to come in and get the car inspected, and during that time refueled, and then on his final pit stop was able to refuel the car with less time in the pits. That resulted in his getting to the front of the field and staying there until its conclusion. But the championship is going to go to Scott Dixon, who is running second at this moment. De Ferran will end up 18 points behind Dixon in the battle for the IRL Championship. Scott Dixon started off the season at Homestead Miami Speedway with a win. He was one of just a few drivers to win his first outing in the IRL as the caution and white flags come out, indicating that the race will be stopped on the next lap. He started the race, or rather the season, with a win. He finished 20th at Phoenix, then came back with a 6th place finish here at Texas. He won at Pikes Peak. He won at Richmond for his 2nd race in a row, won at Nashville, and now comes here to Texas Motor Speedway, finishing 2nd to Gil de Ferran, but accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish and what Target Team Ganassi wanted to accomplish, and that is winning the IRL Championship for 2003. Just no way that the repairs can be made to this speedway before the race would officially end, and so it is being brought to a conclusion here 5 laps short of the distance. Gil de Ferran, at a pace of about 72 miles an hour, will come out of turn number 4 behind the pace car driven by Johnny Rutherford, and the checkered flags will wave as de Ferran wins in his final race of his career. He, of course, won the Indianapolis 500 this year. He's the winner of the race, and the champion for 2003 is Scott Dixon. We'll be back with the championship celebration in a moment.